I think all plotters and pantsers might start off with that big brainstorm. Like that's that first, hey, what do I want it to do? What do I want it to go? What's it going to be? Like, what are tropes in romance?
It's really great at business and formatting and all those great things. But when it comes to writing a full-length novel, you find yourself like having multiple documents stored all over.
You have the ability to organize so much in Scrivener and with the software that I could not imagine now trying to write a novel without it. I'm dependent on you guys now.
Essentially, I have a writer problem. There's a problem I'm struggling with, and the problems I have as a writer vary throughout the entire process. And so, lo and behold, Scrivener had a solution.
Hey folks, welcome to the BookFunnel podcast, where indie authors get real-world advice on writing, publishing, and growing a career on their own terms. Whether you're just starting out or you're deep into your publishing journey, we're here to help you build your readership, boost your book sales, and connect with your audience. Each episode, we aim to bring you insights from authors, experts, and industry insiders who have been there, done that, and then some. My name is Jack. I am our lead author support specialist here at BookFunnel, and I am joined today, as always, by my co-host, Kelly Tansey.
Hello.
Just one co-host for today. Emma is out for today. And we are joined by our guest, Oliver Evensen, the director of marketing and outreach for Scrivener, or Literature and Latte, as some of you probably also know them. So, Oliver, welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So for those who just aren't familiar, I'll give you just a moment just to kind of introduce the audience to Scrivener, Literature and Latte. Obviously, we'll do a deep dive here in a little bit, but just give us like the footnotes, a quick introduction.
Well, Scrivener is the premier writing app for any type of writer. I don't care if you're a novelist, an academic, a screenwriter, you name it, Scrivener can do it. But I know today we're really focused on novel writing, and that's what I use it for personally. So I'm so excited to talk all about how you can really maximize Scrivener and start small and create something really incredible.
Yeah. No, it's going to be a fun conversation. I've used Scrivener personally for a long time. I know Kelly uses Scrivener, like a lot of us on the BookFunnel team do. So we're fans. We're not gonna let that bias show through here. We're gonna have some questions and so forth, but it really is a great product. I know at the beginning here we do like to sometimes play a little catch up on how things have been going, though, because most of us here are authors at BookFunnel. Kelly, I know I can't remember where we picked up last time. I'm gonna go ahead and lead with what I've been doing author-wise these days. I started a Shopify store. And it's out there. And
nice.
I got the whole thing up and running. And then I'm also, for whatever reason, deciding I'm going to do an early access Patreon at the same time, because you can't do one thing at a time. You have to do two, right? Or three, or as many as you can juggle plus one. That's my philosophy. So that's what I've been up to, Kelly.
We just had a conversation with Becca about this.
We did. Well, but what Becca said, if you don't remember, and Becca's episode of the podcast will be out by the time this goes live. Yeah. She said, like, say nice things about yourself. Tell yourself 5 nice things. And one of those nice things is like, you can do it, Jack. And so I just...
so you can do it, Jack.
Right.
And that's okay. That's okay.
But Kel, what have you been up to these days, author-wise?
It's right now it's been rereading book. Well, it will be book 4. It's a prequel, but it's book 4. And in the series, I've actually made some decent progress. I thought I found some plot holes, or not plot holes, but like chapters that were needed that really tied the end together. Because I'm about at the 75-80% mark now, and that's where I start stalling out. And I've been stalled out for a long time on this project, so this has been good. I've been making progress.
Yeah.
But I got to that 75%, and my coach was like, why don't we go back and figure out why you feel disconnected from the ending? And it's really helping because now I'm tying in more to the story, making it feel a little bit more rich. Yeah. And then when I get back to that 80% mark where I've been, I will have the ending down. And this is my process. I just have to trust it. And that's what they tell you. I'll trust the process. My process is pants as much as you can and then go, wait, I got to reread what I've done.
And then plug it all in after the fact and it made sense. Yep. And you knew all along, right?
Yeah, I knew all along I was going to do that. So I'm a plantser, really, because I can plot high overarching things, but when I try to plot real detail, I end up
Yeah.
finding better story, and then I just go off script anyway. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
the overarching, I know exactly these points. It's just getting to them.
Right.
That's where I'm at
No,
now.
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. So, Oliver, you said you use Scrivener for novel writing yourself too. So I'm assuming you're an author as well. What author things have you been up to these days?
That's a great question. I have been working, I probably finished like 4 or 5 books in Scrivener. Haven't
Mm-hmm.
published anything yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a perfectionist at heart. And so every time
Yeah.
I look at it, I'm like, this just isn't there yet. But I am working on a fantasy novel right now. I'm actually co-authoring it with
Cool.
a friend of mine. We're through like the 6th draft now, and we're like, this has to be the last draft.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we're done. And we do plan to self-publish it, so that I'm hopeful
Cool.
that we'll get that done early next year. But, as these things go, it seems like year after year you say that, oh, it'll get to it next year. We'll see.
No,
Yeah,
I
I'm
hear
like
you.
that too. Without a hard deadline, it's really hard for me to get, like, if
Right.
I don't have, like, editing planned, and, like, if I have to give myself deadlines, or I'll just be like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't need to write tonight, or,
Definitely.
I
Definitely.
can go through it one more time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I hear you. I hear you. And it's funny because we were talking with Becca Syme last time about like the different stages of like your author business, or even just like your author like journey to some extent too. And like for me, that phase, like pre-publishing, it was a while ago, but like those are some good times. So there's still a lot you can get. I kind of envy you a little bit in some respects because
you miss
like,
those days.
right. There's things that you don't know, you haven't dealt with yet once you have published. And I'm not trying to discourage you at all, but like sometimes it's like, there's those sweet moments when it's new and it's, or you're writing
fresh and you're excited.
You're working on a new draft. Exactly. So I totally get that. But it's also cool to know that like you've got that perspective as a writer using Scrivener and that software as well. So I want to kind of go into Scrivener and what it is. I want to set the stage because I know not everybody who's going to watch this episode of the podcast is going to be familiar with Scrivener and what it does. So before we start, gushing over some of our favorite software here, give us like a little bit of, I guess, more of an idea of what Scrivener is, how authors use it. I'm sure you can explain it better than I can.
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I think about Scrivener, I think about it, we all used to use Microsoft Word, right? So that was the big guy. It still is the big guy to some degree. A lot of people still use it. I still can't believe how many people still use Word. But it's familiar, right? It's safe. It's familiar. People are really comfortable with Word. But Scrivener, it kind of builds on all of Word's, like, I want to say failings, but really failings for a novelist, right? Word's really great at business and formatting and all those great things. But when it comes to writing a full-length novel, you find yourself like having multiple documents stored all over your computer. I remember these days back in high school, believe it or not, that's when I started using Scrivener. And so I'd have documents all over the place, chapters all over the place, because I could never get my Microsoft Word document to fully have a full thing, whole book without it like totally crashing and breaking on me. Scrivener is just completely different in that regard. We can easily break up chapters and scenes, organize them, switch them around, all in one central location. Nothing is lost. And if you really keep in mind this philosophy of just name things, keep it simple, you can really create a very powerful, simple system that saves you so much time. Instead of looking for that one scene or that one chapter, it's all there in Scrivener. You can search it, find it, and you're there and you're working on it.
Right. I think it really lets you organize not just the book itself, but then other things surrounding it. Like it's really an organizational tool in a way that Word is not intended to be.
No. Yeah.
And Word is fine for what it does, but for writing a novel, it's, okay, maybe everybody cuts their teeth and does that like the very first time they ever write anything. And then they learn like, oh yeah, I need Scrivener. But you have the ability to organize so much in Scrivener and with the software that I could not imagine now trying to write a novel without it. I'm dependent on you guys now.
Good. We got you where you want. We want you.
So you're not going anywhere, but no. So for those authors who are using Microsoft Word or some other word processing software. I think that's, at least from my perspective, that's the biggest thing. I'm sure you probably hear
Yeah.
from those authors, like those authors who are new to Scrivener all the time, and they're probably like wowed by certain aspects of what Scrivener can do. But that, just the organizational piece,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
to me, it sounds like that's probably one of the biggest things. For me personally, I know it is.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I would be lost without it too. Frankly speaking, the ability to, I mean, if you're a plotter, you can map things out. You literally go through chapter by chapter, scene by scene, plot it all out however you want to. If you're a pantser, more like Kelly is, you can just create a few documents and just start writing and writing and writing, and then build a structure later. And I think that's what I really love about Scrivener is its flexibility. It really can do whatever you want to do. Yeah, so I would say approach it from that way. Don't try to do everything at once, right? Learn what you do, bring your existing process, whatever that is, and then start doing that in Scrivener. And then over time, you can start learning to add in those extra features and tools, and you'll eventually become like me, pro.
Right.
I think what I find, especially if you're a pantser or a planter like me, one of the things is I get going and I've got 5, 6 chapters, and then I'm like, oh, here's this, this chapter actually would be better up here. And being able to easily shift things around is actually really, really like freeing because it's not stuck and don't have to copy and paste and go find it and figure out where it goes. I can just grab it and move it. And I've literally taken a scene that's been embedded in a chapter and I'm like, nope, I don't want this here. I want it up here in this chapter. And so after this part, and so I can move it and have that flexibility of moving my words around without having to cutting and pasting would stress me out. Like it would stress
Oh,
me
yeah.
out to because what if I paste it in the wrong place? Where does it go? Where did I put it? Like that sort of thing. Just being able to grab it and move it. And then I do the same thing when I'm writing. Because I write more than I need. Sometimes I have more scenes than I need, or I cut stuff, or I have like a file and I don't want to lose those words. I don't
Yeah.
maybe I'll
Yeah.
use it for a bonus deleted scene
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
something like that. I had in my last book that I just finished that I released in August. I had a whole scene where they it was like 4 chapters where they went to a party and had interactions with their colleagues, and there's like a whole scene there, but it was slow for the original book, but it could be used as bonus later. And
Yeah.
so I grabbed it and I have like a whole little cutscene file. And a lot of times it's like, I leave little notes to myself, like, this is what it is. And then if I never use it, that's okay. But I have them there if I want to come back to them. And that's what's really
Yeah.
nice is it takes me 3 seconds to go organize that and move it out of the way.
So true. In the binder itself, there at the very bottom, there's 4 key folders. There are actually 3. We have a manuscript folder, we have a research folder, and we have a trash folder there at the bottom. And actually, one of the first things I do whenever I create a project, assuming I'm not using a template or something, is I go down to my trash folder and I rename that. I call it my scraps folder instead.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Because I don't consider it my trash. I rarely empty it. In fact, I'm organizing it. I keep my scraps organized. I have my drafts in there. I'll duplicate my draft folder and put all my drafts in there from the very beginning to the current draft. I will keep deleted scenes, all that bonus content you're talking about, research, anything that's just like this doesn't fit with the actual story anymore, but I still want to keep it. I'm a
Yeah.
big believer in save what you wrote.
yeah.
Right.
Scrivener makes it easy.
Yeah, and I have it I have 2. So I keep the trash and that's when I know I don't want it, but I'm not throwing it away. Like,
Yeah.
this is garbage, I'm going to throw this out. But when I have ones that I could maybe bring back in or I could use as those bonus, that's where I created my own little folder called cutscene, and that just
Yeah,
keeps
that's
that
great.
organized for me because then that's the one I know I might come back to it.
And the
Great.
beauty of all this is that the 3 of us all using Scrivener probably all do it 3 different ways.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah,
my
definitely.
trash, I know what the trash folder is for me. It's when I'm creating a new outline or something, or setting up the chapters for a new book, and I accidentally make too many, and I just those go in the trash.
You just throw them in the trash.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's what I use my trash for. I have something else where I keep like deleted scenes and cut scenes and things
Yep.
like that. Or even like
Yep.
old drafts of the book that I can go and refer back to
Yep.
And so it's so flexible because I think writing is kind of ephemeral to begin with. Like you're putting the words on the page, but like it's the writing experience itself. It's like when you're in the moment, you're in it, and then it can sometimes be hard to like go back to that place. Like when I go and look back at like things that I've written like years ago,
Uh-huh.
I can open up Scrivener and it's there, and it's organized in the way that my mind, where it makes sense to my mind, and I can easily
Yep.
find those things. Whereas if it were just in a Word document, it's like it's almost inaccessible, right?
Mhm.
It's like the
Yep.
neurons aren't really connected, right? Or
Yep.
it's connected in a weird sort of way, where this gives you like access to everything
Yep.
individually and the ability to kind of, I know for some people, it might, I'm imagining it might seem daunting for some folks, when they
It did
Mhm.
what for
first,
me. Yeah, when
yeah,
I
Yeah.
first got
Yeah, when you
started,
first opened
it's
it up.
you open it up and you're like, "Okay, what do I do with all this? There's so much." So where do you get
right.
started,
Mhm.
Oliver? Like, how do you
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you're a newbie and you're just opening it for the first time, even if you've been writing for years, but like, you open up Scrivener and it can be overwhelming. What's the best place to start?
That's a great question. And so typically when you start a new Scrivener or a new Scrivener project, that new project window pops up, and the first thing you're going to see is like, oh, there's a bunch of different templates I can choose from. And probably the easiest, most simple one you can ever grab is the blank template, because literally it's just that. It's just a blank template that has a draft folder, research folder, and a trash folder. And there's some distinct advantages or disadvantages to that, but depends on what you're writing, right? I'm assuming most of us here are writing novels, so I'd probably find that fiction template, right? And then choose that option there. And once I get that option selected, um, I'm going to go ahead and just open it up. It's going to have a chapter and scene there. I'm going to click that scene. I'm going to start writing. That's how I would do it. I would just literally just hit the ground running. Don't even think twice about it. Just start writing. And I think too often we pause. Like you get to the beginning of that, what do you call it? That screen, and you see, oh, there's all these tools, and there's a binder here, and there's an inspector here, and what is this? What do I do with this? Just click a scene and just start writing.
Mhm.
You can worry about the rest of that later. I mean, I guess the next step after that would be like, hey, how do I add a folder? How do I add a document? How do I create the structure? But once you understand that a little bit, you can literally just keep creating folders, creating documents, and just start writing and writing and writing, and then slowly
Yeah.
build on that over time.
Right, right. And there's a ton of other features that you kind of gradually discover, is what I've found. Like that, there's some features that I've probably used more at
Mhm.
certain times. Like right now, one that I use a lot are the snapshots.
Okay.
And
Yep.
so and I'll describe the feature. You tell me if I've got the right idea, right? Or I'm communicating it
Yeah.
well, right? Not, I might get graded on this. So hold on, let me prepare myself. Basically, a snapshot, like you can, in any document you've created in Scrivener, there's like a camera icon. You can take a snapshot.
Uh-huh.
It has its own section where it's stored, right? Each snapshot. And it basically like takes, as if it takes a picture of the document as it is right now. And then you can make changes to it and you can edit it and, cut things and add things and rewrite sentences. And then
Yep.
you can go and compare what you did, the changes, to the old version. And I do this for each edit pass
Mhm.
as I go through, and I can see, okay, what's changed over time, or what did I remove here that maybe I should have kept, and that sort of thing. I find that feature, like that's one I didn't used to use a whole lot, but it just answered that problem of like, instead of having to create a totally separate document for the next draft, I can still keep it all there. And it's like there's a memory of all
Mhm.
those things, of what I did previously. So like just as an example, like that's a feature that I think authors instinctively like, they think like, I wish I could do this, and Scrivener has it.
Yep.
It's there. But maybe you don't necessarily have to like stumble upon that right away. You kind of figure it out as you go. There's lots of things like that. And there's even
Yep.
features in Scrivener that I used to use a lot more, and now I've just adapted how I've done things. And so, maybe I don't use those as much, but for another author, that's probably like something essential for them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Uh,
Well, the funny thing about all what you're saying here, this is a very common example. In fact, this is how I approach Scrivener myself. Is essentially I have a writer problem. There's a problem I'm struggling with, and the problems I have as a writer vary throughout the entire process. Right? You reached
uh-huh.
a point where you needed to keep track of drafts, of versions of your document, because you were in an editing phase, and you wanted to see that grow. And so, what lo and behold, Scrivener had a solution. And so, I find myself often asking myself, can Scrivener do that? And it's either a yes or a no. If it's yes, then okay, how? How do I do that in Scrivener? And frankly speaking, we offer tons of webinars and courses and, YouTube videos and things like that. You can definitely tap into that knowledge. But honestly, a quick Google search often reveals very quickly whether it can or cannot do that
Yeah.
specific thing.
Yeah.
Or maybe if there's a way to do it that maybe you hadn't thought about. And so that's how I approach it. Is every time I run into a problem, I always ask myself, can Scrivener do that? And I tell you, probably like 5% of the time it can. There's like that 0.05% like, oh, Scrivener couldn't do that, and I'll find
Yeah.
some other tool that can. But
Sure.
rarely, honestly.
Right. Right. It's like this iceberg, to be
Yep.
quite honest with you. And
Oh yeah.
and there's so much beneath the surface of the water, right?
I was going to say one of my favorite tools to use, actually, like I don't use it throughout most of the draft. And at this point, I've just started using it. I said I was at the 80% point in this book, is the labels, and then having those labels appear in the binder. So
Oh, yeah.
I create my own labels. I might ask you how I can keep from across different projects. Like if I can just copy the labels, but I have
think you
labels
can.
like a red is chapter needed. I'm actually going to tell you what mine are. My orange is
funny.
hot mess.
Because I use them for something totally different. I use them for
Me
something
too.
totally
Me
different. This is
too.
great. I
Yeah.
love
So
this.
I love to
then
hear this.
I have developmental edit needed. So I have I label the chapter whether or not I got to develop it better. Like there's more plot needs to be developed. I have an emotional edit, and then I have alpha reader ready and ready for editor. And they go from like red to purple, and purple is done. Like done.
Cool.
That's so
done.
I
interesting.
love that.
Yeah. So because I like that visual when I'm coming back, because I can look at right now and I can see there's a red at the very top. It's like chapter 2. And I was like, that means I need a whole chapter. That was when I went back and did that reread. I actually just added that folder right there and made it red so that I know, okay, well, even though I'm just redoing a reread, I need a chapter here. And so that it's blue, 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 red, oh, whoops. And so it's a very visual
Catch that
thing
one.
for me during that edit is to come back to it and say, this. And my favorite is when there are no hot messes, which is great.
That's great.
That's
I
great.
love your use of very descriptive, like kind of fun words too. I think sometimes as writers we can be like, oh, it has to be perfect and professional and cool, but like,
Yeah, nobody
if we
sees
just
this but me, and now I just told
yeah.
everybody.
just
Yeah.
have fun with it. I
Yeah.
love using fun words like that because it's just like, this is a hot mess, and like you just feel better about it yourself. Psychologically speaking, you enjoy interacting with your project more because little things like that, little details like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
Right. It's funny because I use the labels. So because there's labels,
Mhm.
statuses, and icons, right?
Yeah.
Those are the 3 tools I primarily use to organize things. The labels I use for character POVs.
Me too. Same
So-
thing
Okay.
here.
Who's and it's just like this color is this character, this color is this character.
Yep.
And
I
I
guess
use
especially in fantasy or sci-fi where you have multiple POVs,
Yeah.
that totally. I have 2, like a man and a woman. Like that's I got my
Yeah.
2. So I guess I could see that visually making sense too. But yeah,
Right.
that's if you have like
Yeah.
fantasy books and stuff where they have 18 characters, you gotta go. How many? Am I overwhelming everybody with one
Yeah.
person?
Right.
Yeah.
And then I actually use the icons in a similar way to what you do, Kelly. So I change the icon image.
What's the
so
icon?
there's like so
I'm
so,
like
like,
looking at my
when
project.
you like when you create a new document, like I literally have it open right now. When you create a new document, it's like a blank piece of paper, right?
Yeah.
And then when you put text, that blank piece of paper will have like lines on it, like you've written something in
Yeah,
it. Well,
yeah,
you can right click and you can change the icon.
Ooh.
Yes.
Yep.
This is yes.
Yep.
And there's
So true.
I know you're discovering it right now. This makes me so happy because Scrivener has a whole bunch of preloaded icons, which are great, and they cover like 95% of my needs.
Oh yeah.
But you can also use at one point you guys added the ability to you can always add custom icons,
Yeah.
but now you can use emojis. And emojis kind of fill in the rest of the gap if I want to do something weird, right? And so there's like colored notepads. That's what I use. I use those colored notepad icons for my different drafts. And then there's revision modes and that sort of thing, but that's another
Another thing, yeah.
There's like multiple layers. So because with revision modes, Oliver, maybe you can I don't want to gush too much. Maybe you can tell us about like the revision mode feature because it's kind of similar to that of being able to like keep track of whether or not something's like a first draft, it's your
Mhm.
revision or that's the final draft, that sort of thing?
Yep. So, I mean, it's actually a pretty simple tool once you really look at what it does and how it works. Essentially, you're just color coding text, right? When
Hmm.
you switch your first revision mode, for example, typically it's like a red color, right? And you can
Yeah.
change the colors to whatever you want to be, but typically it's a red color. So when you start into that revision mode and you start writing anything, it's all going to be in that red color now. And any change you make, it's going to be red. Now, a lot of people try to compare this with like track changes for words. It's really a
Hmm.
very different feature.
Yeah.
Track changes will like track everything and it puts everything in this kind of mess on the side of your Word document. Some people love it. I've personally never been a fan because I feel like it's just clutters my workspace with all that. Oh, you changed a comma here and there it is. There's the comment that got changed. But I love revision mode because it is that simple. You type a new text, it's that color. And it's just a really simple, nice way to do
Right.
it. If you pair that with snapshots, you can keep track of anything you deleted, right, in a
Exactly.
snapshot, and then you can make changes and see the actual revisions, and they're also just
Right.
as easy to remove.
Right. It's kind of fun when you get to like the final draft because I go from like red to like, I think there's like I don't know, orange might be in there,
Orange,
and then like
purple, and
blue, right? And
yep,
then green is like the final draft is what I use, green. And so you can see like, oh, those words survived from the very beginning. And then like here's the green words that I added in. You can see all the different changes along, which is it, it's
kind of fun.
yeah, it's fun. But it also lets you like, there's something about that I think is motivating to like completing something.
Yeah,
And I think the fact that it's all organized and Scrivener does that very well makes it makes it easier for you to complete a project because you feel more like you're rest assured that like everything's being tracked and this system is helping you organize it and remember it. And you don't have to do all the mental heavy lifting of like,
yep,
oh yeah, what's the original phrasing I used in that sentence? You have it there and you can go back to
yep,
it later if you want to.
yep. So true, so true.
So, yeah, no, it's a beautiful piece of software, and it does so much. I know one thing that I also have used and has been a lifesaver for me is the iOS app on my phone.
Okay.
And I know I had the privilege of being on one of your guys' webinars,
Okay.
I think last week. And I know I
Yep.
talked about this and probably gushed a little bit too much, but I love the app. It's a slightly different experience because it's on mobile,
Hmm.
but it's all the beauty of Scrivener. And I've written books. In fact, I'm currently writing now books on my phone with these two thumbs right here, which is going to sound bizarre to a lot of people, but there's just something about it that like I think it's maybe because my computer's for work. And so when I'm on my
Hmm.
computer, like I get sucked into work. When I'm
Yep.
on my
Yep.
phone, for some people, the phone is the distraction, but it's a smaller screen. It's here. I can be anywhere. I could be sitting
Mhm.
on I can be going for a walk. Like I've written entire books walking on the treadmill at the gym. I'm that weird guy who does stuff like that. And Scrivener has made that possible for me. And, so first of all, thank you for making that app. It's beautiful. But
You're welcome.
I know for I think there's a lot of other authors out there. It's like it gives you this like different mode that you can go into. You don't just have to write like on your keyboard. And I can write just about as fast on my phone as I do on my computer, so I've gotten used to it.
Mhm.
Do you find a lot of people they probably find like one or the other? I know I use a little bit of
Mhm.
both, but
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people use just the iOS app. I've seen people use just the desktop app. I'll be honest, because I kind of see myself as more of a power user, and plus, I started using Scrivener on my Mac first before I
Mhm.
did it on PC or iPhone and all that fun stuff. And so jumping into the app for me was a little jarring. As someone who has been using the app in this certain way for a long time, sadly I don't find myself using the iOS app as much as I'd
Mhm.
like to. But the funny thing is it doesn't really matter where you start. Device. I can be working on the same project on my iPhone, and I can switch over to my iPad, and I can switch over to my MacBook. I can switch over to my PC. Any one of them. In fact, I have found myself working on all of my devices at one time or another, just depending on which one was the most convenient
Yeah,
at the time. I
exactly.
really love that because you don't really see that a whole lot unless it's like some sort of web app, where you're literally on a
Right.
browser and you're working from browser to browser to browser. But in this case, you're working from app to app to app, and there's just something more. It just feels more solid and more safe on an application on my phone and on my computer versus like something that's living in the internet. But yeah, that's great. I love to hear stories like this, Jack, because
Yeah.
it's just great to see how people take what we're creating and then do incredible things with it.
No, it's like I said, it's been a lifesaver for me. It's helped me. Like it's almost like I could just pick up my phone at any time and I can start writing. It's like that initiating the writing process is like that,
Yep.
Whereas if I'm going to sit down on my laptop, okay, well, I've got to set up my space and I got to get all this. And,
Yeah.
you know what I
Do all
mean?
the procrastinator writery things that we all do.
Yes,
My desk is
exactly.
dirty. Let me tidy my desk real quick.
Okay,
Yeah.
Oliver, don't call me out like that.
I try to, I try to, she does have a messy desk. I
do.
Sorry, Kelly. I try to channel that like compulsive, everybody's on their phone so much. It's like the compulsive reach for your phone. Like when that happens to me now, the first app I try to open is Scrivener instead of going to Facebook or YouTube and like open Scrivener. And then even if I just type a few words, it's like that feels like productive. So I'm using my phone addiction to my advantage. Right.
Yes, that's so smart. In fact, a long time ago, I deleted all those Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, all that stuff. I got it all off my phone ages ago. It's actually kind of it's this iPhone, but it's just kind of a dumb phone now. And so unless I'm going to open up Scrivener or something like useful, it's kind of, I don't really use it. So I only really pull it up now if I'm going to use Scrivener or something else.
Yeah.
And
so I have one of
really
those
smart thing to do.
I know, Kelly, I think you had something to say, and I don't want to talk over you here, but
No.
a note on that. I have one of those brick devices, so I can brick my phone, and it blocks all of those apps, because I have to have them on there for other things, but it like blocks basically all social media, and then if you leave that device somewhere, right? So like if I brick my phone, and then I leave the brick at home, the little square, and I go anywhere, I can't access those apps until I come back and scan that object again. Wow. So it's pretty, got it around here, so I can dig through. Yes.
I'd love to see that.
Right. And like in an emergency, you can circumvent it, but there's like a hardcore mode where it's like, no, you can't bypass.
You're
like
locked out.
If you lose the little brick, you got to like call the company. That sort of thing. Wow. Like I'm serious, and it works really well if that's a problem for some folks. So that combined with Scrivener, that's like that little you were talking about.
The only thing that works is Scrivener. That's it.
the 5% that Scrivener can't do. Scrivener can't stop you from accessing social media. Sure. That's the combination that works for me.
It's great. I love that.
So what are, like, we've talked about starting simple, just opening a draft and getting started. And like, what tools maybe do you think maybe some people that we haven't talked about yet might have that like you might have that might be helpful when you're just getting started?
That's a good question. I mean, if I was just getting started, the main thing I would focus on is the binder. Because if you don't understand how the binder works, you're going to really be lost. You need to understand how you are the architect here. You are the person who gets to structure and put things in any order you want. It's on you. You can do it. So just learning, how do I create a chapter? How do I create a scene? Do I want to have multiple scenes in a folder? Or do I just want to have a single document that is just a chapter, right? There's no real wrong way to do it. There are ways that maybe Scrivener is optimized to do it a little bit better, but really you just need to figure out how you're going to build a structure. And it doesn't have to be anything complicated. You could literally just focus on your draft folder. That's where you have your chapters and scenes, right? Your research folder, every time I bring something into my project, I'm going to create a folder for it, give it a quick name, and then drop it in. That's it. That's all it has to be. You don't have to go really crazy with it. You don't have to plan the perfect system, right? And then know that your trash folder is right there. For anything you don't need, if you just need to get something out of the way, drag it and drop it in that trash, or click that little trash button in the toolbar, and that's it. You've mastered that simple fundamental, and Scrivener suddenly opens up for you. You can really do so many great things to build on top of that. That's where I would focus most of my time and attention. How do I structure things in my binder? That's where most people get hung up.
I think when I very first started, it's been a long time. Like, I think this was the very first software I purchased when I really decided I was going to write this book, right? I was going to get it written, right? So I bought Scrivener on my PC. And at first, I think the first part of it was I look at it and it's like, what do I do with it now? And the first thing was, okay, well, I start writing. Okay, I got that chapter done. Now what? And, it's that little plus button. You just hit the plus button and now I have a new chapter. And then I learned about scenes, and it takes some time, but I didn't go do webinars. I think maybe, I don't know if that was
I don't
even
think we
offered
had
back
then.
then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Back. back in
Yeah,
the day.
back in the day. Yep.
But yeah, like just taking you have your folder and then you have my scenes, and that helps to keep it organized too, because like I didn't even get the little icon that Jack was talking about because I
Yeah.
created a second scene as the first part. And then that little icon would show up and I'd be like, what is that? What is it doing? Why is there a little paper there or a little index card or whatever it was?
Yep.
And then, then building the scene. And then when I was like, okay, well, what's nice is when you compile it and you have your scenes within a chapter. So if let's say you have a scene break and you don't want a new chapter, you want a scene break, it'll compile it that way. And then it goes into formatting software pretty well.
Right.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. And the other thing I discovered early on too, and I think many people probably discover right away, like you create a document, you start writing in it, but then there's the synopsis and the notes, and each document you create, document or subdocument, has those. And so it's a great place to, like, I throw like my scene beats in there, like that, my little outline for that chapter that I'm going to write, because I can just refer to it. Like it's just literally right over there on the right hand side.
Yep. So true.
And you have ways to hide that stuff, and you have ways to, if you just want to like tunnel vision, focus on the text, if you find it distracting. But like, there's so many ways, and there's other things that like I know I haven't even tapped into and used, but I should be.
Oh yeah.
Right. Like, but the synopsis and the notes lets you, like, you can create, like Kelly said, like index cards, and you even have a way to organize those on like a cork board, like you were putting index cards on a cork board, and all of those documents now become index cards that you can shift around and move around and just like visually try to wrap your brain around what you're doing, and it's very intuitive too. So those are some of like the earliest features I remember playing with when I first got started, and really helped me. And now, like, gosh, I mean, I don't know that I use the corkboard all that often now at this stage, because I've also, as a writer, evolved a little bit, but it's like Scrivener has been there for me at every stage too. So when I was a newer writer, and like I really needed to like know my outline really well, and I was worried about all that stuff, I had the tools to do it, and now I'm a little bit more confident. And I know I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing this, this, and this, and this. And Scrivener's there for me still. And if I need to go back and, use some things I did, those old comfort features, but that are, they're still there for me. So I think, what would be your message, I guess? I know we're beating around the bush here around this thing, but like for people who say like Scrivener is just too complicated for me, like I looked at it and it was just, the message I'm getting from you is just that like, there's a lot of tools there available to you, but you can start from just the simplest thing, like just create a document and then it builds out from there. I guess that's the message I'm hearing from you, but
Yeah, definitely. Just start simple, start small. Do not try to learn everything at once. You will completely overwhelm yourself. And plus, you don't need to. Like we discussed earlier, Jack, you really just need to focus on the problem you are having right now. What is the chief writing problem you're having? And then figure out how Scrivener solves that problem for you. And then just go ahead and do that.
Right.
I like that, we're talking about labels, for example. As a fantasy author, or anyone who writes multi-viewpoint novels, right? You need, or rather you want to be able to see what these characters are doing. You want to see their arcs kind of grow and expand and do things like that. And so that's where labels, like for Jack, that became very useful for me. I realized, labels is a great way where I can visualize each character arc as a color, right? And the cool thing is I can sift that out and look at all of one character and still keep my structure all in order, looking nice and neat. I didn't change anything about my structure, but I can pick out every character one at a time and say, okay, for example, in this book I've been working on, the Mark of the Shadow book, we realized that one of our 4 point of view characters, he was only in like 20% of the book. There was almost no viewpoints from him, and we didn't even realize it until we got to the end of the book, and we're like, the draft, we're like, what happened to this character arc? It just kind of fizzled out and disappeared. And what that does is it makes you ask questions. Do I really need this character? Could I cut him altogether? Does the story depend upon this character? Or do I just need to add in more of this character? It doesn't answer the question for you, but it does reveal that there is a problem, and you can then come up with solutions yourself and make that decision.
Right. I like how you put that. It reveals it to you, where it, like, to go back to the same comparison to Word, you wouldn't be able to see that from a Word document.
You couldn't.
You wouldn't be able to just look at it and intuitively understand that that's the case. But Scrivener just makes all of that just so obvious when you use it that way. So in my experience, like I've pretty much used it almost the exact same way that you described. It's like Like, oh, this character is supposed to be like one of the main characters. Why are they not? I've
Yeah.
literally had that
What are
same thing
you? And
happen to me.
yeah, what are you
Yeah.
doing? Why did you disappear?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
No, exactly. And I would say, this is the BookFunnel podcast. So like when I know we have some people, some authors who come to BookFunnel and they're like, wow, there's like it's a little overwhelming. There's all these features and like what am I supposed to do? Like where am I supposed to start? And I think like we have a sort of a similar message. It's like, well, what do you need? Like BookFunnel is
Hmm.
kind of like this utility belt for you, right? As an author. And like if you need to like deliver arcs right now, then use those
Do it.
features. And if you don't need landing pages, well then you don't need landing pages. It's all there, but you take from it what you need. It's like a buffet. You don't have to.
Yeah.
It's not like the courses are laid out for you in this order. You can kind of take what you need from it. And I like how Scrivener is the same way, right?
Hmm.
In that respect, like all the tools and features are there at your disposal,
Yep.
but you use them how not only you use the ones that you want to use and you need to use, but you can use them how it intuitively makes sense to you.
Yep.
So it's just
So true.
it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
No, I agree.
So now that we've kind of gone over like just getting started, what are some more advanced tools that
Mm-hmm.
authors can
That you can use.
use that
Yeah.
that really, because once you've gotten comfortable with the binder and you understand how to set up your scenes, you formatted it, maybe you've got labels or icons. What
Yeah.
I will be
What can you do next?
playing with that later.
I've got my
Yeah.
notepad. I'm ready to learn.
No,
So now that
it's great.
Yeah, because
Go
I mean,
ahead.
those are things that are like you're not sure what the product can do, and you're like, maybe I didn't know I needed that, and it's there, and I'd love to know about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's hard to say because I hate to call it advanced because in some cases, yes, there are a couple tools I would say, yes, this is a little advanced because it takes a little more work to learn and understand how this works. But there are several other tools I wouldn't consider advanced, which is kind of tucked away and hidden. And maybe a good example would be like the name generator, for example. I don't know if either of you are familiar with the name generator. It is just a tool that literally generates a list of names you can use in your book. I'll be frank, I'm pretty picky when it comes to my names. I don't always use those names like verbatim for my characters, but I often use them as placeholders because I hate having just like a random weird placeholder name inside my book. I'd rather have a real name, and sometimes it does stick and I'll keep it, and other times it changes. But even that tool, I guess where you could say where it gets more advanced is you could add your own custom name lists. So you could literally compile lists of names and then what you think would work for your book and then add those into Scrivener, and then Scrivener can mix and match those for you to get just the names you might like to try things you hadn't thought of trying before. So that's one big one. The list goes on. My probably all-time favorite tool is templates. I hate wasting time, and I think most writers do. This idea that I'm literally wasting my time not writing, even though I know we all do it. We all procrastinate to some degree, but you hate that feeling like, oh, why am I wasting my time doing this thing when I should actually spending my time writing? And so templates is another big one for me. For example, I will create chapter templates. And so I like to keep track of like word counts, how many like my target for a specific document. If it's like, how long that scene should be, 750 words, 1,500, whatever it means, I kind of average them out and I get a couple different types, but I can put all that information into my chapter template. I can add a couple scenes in there. I can give it a label. I can add any sort of interesting information about that chapter. And then instead of having to recreate that every time from scratch, I can just go to my template, click add, and now I've got a whole chapter set up for one of my point of view characters with all the targets set up, with all the metadata I could ever want added to it, all just built into it and ready to go without having to think about it twice. If that makes sense.
And so it'll actually like let you set up how to track that particular chapter. Because I use the project, toolbar, the project to find my word count history, which is really also very handy because then you can look back and say, okay, how many words did I get for this month? And when I was doing NaNoWriMo, when it was still a thing, it was like that was how I knew like I had made my goals, but that I was on because I could see each day. It wasn't just for this month. It's this month.
Yeah.
This is much. You could see each day. You only wrote 4 words. Oh, you deleted 110. Why?
I love that. Yeah, it's so true. You can go right to your writing history in your project, and you can see all the way back to the beginning. For example, this Mark of the Shadow project I've been working on for 5 years now. So I have 5 years worth of data telling me what my habits are as a writer. And sometimes it's a little daunting looking at that. I have to kind of be objective, like, oh man, I'm not doing that. Great in some regards, but I can also
Mhm.
look at it and say, oh, I've been averaging about 750 words every writing day I write. And so what that tells me is when I'm writing a new book or writing a new project or writing anything, frankly, typically in a day, my max is about 750 words unless I'm really pushing myself. Obviously, some days I'd write more and some days I write less, but it just was very revealing to me to know my process. And I wouldn't have known that if Scrivener hadn't been keeping track of that
Mhm.
information for me, right?
Right.
Mhm.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I know one feature that to me, and I'm sure somebody is going to listen to this and be like, that's like one of the first features I ever used, Jack. But that like I haven't touched and I really should because I write sci-fi and the feature sounds like it would be very useful to me as somebody who has lots of
Mhm.
terminology. So like the keywords feature, right?
Yep.
Is one
Yep.
I know I have not touched. I should. Right,
Yeah.
probably. Give me like the short like what does that feature do? And obviously it hasn't been essential for me up
Uh-huh.
until this point. So maybe for a beginner, something they wouldn't necessarily need to focus on, but maybe at this kind of intermediate to advanced level where like you've got a lot of information to kind of keep track of, right? How can authors use that keywords feature? Because I want
That's
to
a great
know.
question. Yeah, that's a great question. So I often keep track of like plot beats or plot points, right? With keywords, I keep track of characters. I love drilling down to all the little characters that I create, especially in a big world, right? I want to see all their arcs, and keywords is a great way to assign those to your chapters and scenes. So when you're writing it or when you're revising it, whenever you want to, you can quickly add a keyword every time you create a new character, right? For example.
Hmm.
If you know you're really big into plot structure and you're like, okay, this plot structure, this here is part of the setup, or this is part of the inciting incident or the catalyst or whatever structure you're using, you can easily add those in. Typically, what I'll do is I'll actually another going back to the advanced tools, right? I use metadata. This is probably the most advanced tool I can think of in Scrivener. It's really challenging to kind of pick up initially. Once you understand it, it's pretty easy to do though. I can create lists. So if you know the status list and the labels is technically a type of list with a color attached to it. So
Hmm.
I create a plot list. So for example, I like to use the Save the Cat plot structure. And so I'll have like all the plot beats in this list. And then I can go to each chapter, each scene, every little bit of it. Even I can look at it at the series level. I could say each book. So like maybe book 1 is the catalyst and book 2 is breaking into 2 and book 3 is the midpoint. I can go through and just assign that there. But because writing is kind of it's dirty a little bit. It's messy, right? And so maybe setup is the main beat or the main point for this specific chapter. Scenes, there are other beats that are going on. That's where I would add keywords and say,
Right.
okay, a theme stated happened here for this character.
Gotcha.
And so, yes, it's still a setup. It's still mainly a setup beat, but there are other things going on. And then I can tie all those threads together.
Okay. Gotcha. See
Yep.
now, and
Yep.
that makes a lot of sense, and I see how I could fit that into my my outlining and my writing because I use a formula. I'm weird because I don't use the same. I have kind of a basic 3-act structure that I rely on, but for each, what I've started to do now is for each series, I have a different formula. So there's going to be specific things that kind of happen, and then in each book that kind of mirrors that thing. Like how George Lucas said, the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy, they rhymed and that sort of thing. It's kind of like that. Now, whether or not he executed it, that's another podcast episode. But like, so I
Yeah.
know that, okay, in this particular series, this type of event that I've given a name to is always going to happen. There's going to be this phase of the story that I've given this name to. And that, like, I could see myself using those keywords for that. Makes a lot of sense. It's like an additional
Yeah.
layer of data,
Mm-hmm.
I think is okay. That's really interesting. That's really interesting because I haven't explored it
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
I'm like, partially because I wasn't exactly sure what it did,
Yeah.
but then also
Yeah.
because Scrivener was still working. It's not like
Yeah.
it's not like there was anything lacking, but like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. That's information I would have put somewhere else, but now I can have it there and it's stuck to it. I like that. I like that. I'm gonna have to play around with that.
Yeah, I agree.
It's neat.
And there is this kind of, I hear it a lot from people who have actually written and published books in Scrivener, like, oh, I've only used like 1% of Scrivener. I'm not really good at it. And like, you wrote a book in Scrivener
Yeah.
and it is now published, whether it's self-published, traditionally published. I've seen it all. And I'm like, why are you like hurting yourself, saying bad
Yeah.
things about yourself. You're doing great. And
Right.
frankly speaking, never feel bad about, using what you use. Be happy with that.
Hmm.
You've done something incredible. Can you learn more? Sure. Why not? Go for it. If you feel like it'll enhance your process, if you want to kind of change things up, dig a little deeper, do it. But don't feel like bad because because you didn't
Right.
take advantage of every
Right.
feature. Yeah.
Right. No, exactly. Exactly. And it's more like, at this point, I don't know that I feel bad. Like, it's more like there's more juice in that orange that I can
Yes.
squeeze. You
Yes.
know what I mean? That's
Squeeze
more
it.
from,
Get it out of there.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
So
totally
yeah.
get that because I know there's stuff in there that now I feel comfortable doing the basic stuff. I'm ready to move on to that new piece, and now I'm like, oh, yeah, give me more. I
Right.
got what now? Yeah, so
And sorry, Kelly. I
you're
just
fine.
I remembered another feature that we have to talk about. Because this is I know the organization of this episode. I'm sorry to our listeners if we're a little all over the place, but and I think this is a feature that actually could be useful for somebody from the very beginning, and it's very intuitive. And I didn't realize that Scrivener had it for a while, which is it can speak text. Very,
Yes.
very useful for editing and just listening back to what you wrote. And there's
Oh
tools
yeah.
out there people pay for
Yep.
that sort of thing. And you can obviously like read it out loud, and there's some benefit to that too. But there's also some benefit to just pushing a button and it speaks the text to you, and you
Yeah.
can like read along with it. I found it very helpful.
Yeah, a lot of my co-writer, for example, and a lot of my writers group, they were always like astounded that I had like listened to read their material. I guess I say I had listened to
Mm.
it, and I
Hmm.
would listen to it, and I listen to my own material often even before I start writing. It's kind of part of my routine. Is that I'll just listen to the first chapter or
Yep.
first scene or whatever of what I was working on the day before to reorient myself and put me back where I was yesterday, or maybe even just give
Right.
me an idea of where I'm at. Right, and it's such a simple but incredibly powerful tool. And plus, you catch things. You're like, oh, that was a mistake. If you had read
Yeah.
that in your mind,
Mhm.
you wouldn't have got it. Sometimes even if you read it aloud, you might not still have missed it. But
Yeah.
you're listening. You're using a different part of your brain, I assume, and so you just pick up things that you wouldn't normally.
Yeah.
nor-
Yeah. And there are tools that are like built into like like iOS and even that
Mhm.
can speak text and that sort of thing. But it's a button. It's just right there. You just have to push the
Yep.
button and it speaks. It starts speaking. So that's particularly useful, I found. Kelly, I don't know. Is there any other features that you think that you use that we really got to mention here?
The focus,
Okay.
which
Yeah.
it would go really well, I guess, if you're reading aloud, because I like to listen to the text too, because it does, especially at that last edit before you're sending it off to an editor and it's like a proofread. Because when you hear it, you're like, that didn't sound right. And it could be just like a word misspelled, like for and of or something like that. And you hear it say of instead of for, and you're like, wait. Obviously, I know how to
What's that?
spell for, but that didn't sound right. You go back and yeah, sure enough, you had a little typo in there and your spell check didn't catch it because it's correct.
Yep.
It's a correct
Mhm.
word. And so those sorts of things are easy to like hear. But the focus was kind of interesting when I found that one because it'll gray out sections you're not working on so that you can focus on just I think it was like a sentence, a paragraph, and a
And a
scene or
line.
something, or a line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a line, sentence, paragraph. Yep. How
Yeah,
that
and
works.
it
Yep.
kind of keeps those like if you're just working on this one paragraph, if your brain needs to just these words in this paragraph, that's all I'm focusing on right now. That's a really nice feature because it sort of keeps you moving in the right direction. Once you're done with that paragraph, you can move to the next one. So it just depends on your editing process as well,
Yep.
Yeah.
which is, I really like that one too. I'm going to look at revision mode though, so I can
Mm.
play with that a little bit too, especially in
Mhm.
these revisions that I've been working on.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you guys are not everybody knows. A lot of people probably just know you as Scrivener.
Yeah.
Right. But the company is actually Literature and Latte.
Mhm.
I mean, anybody who's purchased Scrivener knows that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You figure that out. But for maybe the people who haven't dabbled with it, like, oh, well, yeah, that's the actual company behind Scrivener. And you
Mhm.
guys don't just have Scrivener, right?
Yep.
You
Yep.
have some other apps and things like that. So tell us a little bit about what other offerings you guys have that are useful to authors, because there's an ecosystem. It's not just Scrivener. I mean, as
Yeah.
great as Scrivener is, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to
Yeah.
take away anything from that, but there's
Yeah.
more.
What more can you do? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
such a great question. So our main other app currently is called Scapple, and it's a mind
Mhm.
mapping tool. It's very simple. It's not like, I wouldn't consider it like super sophisticated. I think a lot of people, they think, oh, Scrivener is going to be complicated. This is going to be complicated too. No, it's very basic, very simple. But what I love most about it is that when you build your little mind maps, right, you can kind of think about it as a more flexible corkboard. It's kind of how I look at it if
Mhm.
I'm looking at it from a Scrivener perspective. I can actually take those notes or index cards or whatever you want to call them. I can actually drag and drop them right into Scrivener. So I could build my whole outline in Scapple and just like
Mm.
have them everywhere and then kind of reorganize it, drag, drop, boom, into Scrivener, and I'm ready to get started writing. And they act as index cards. You've got your whole thing mapped out, and yet you had that really flexible interface you could use in Scapple. I love that. That's actually how the book I was working on, that's where it started. It started as a mind map, and then I brought it into Scrivener, and then it just kind of grew and changed
Yeah.
from there.
So is it in a browser app, or is it a like a app? Is it like on my Mac?
Yeah,
Is
it's a
it?
desktop app. Yep, that's available on Mac and Windows. We don't currently have an iOS app yet, but it is on our roadmap to get there. I know, Jack. We want to. Keith has been talking about. He's the developer and the creator of Scrivener. He has been talking
Mhm.
about it for a couple years now, and I think we even have we hired someone recently who is actively working on that. So
Okay.
it is
Cool.
in the works. So it's
So,
coming. No, but yeah,
so
go ahead.
what's Keith's phone number so I can call him and bug him about it?
I don't have that one. He's hard to get in touch
Yeah.
with.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But
Yeah,
no.
so when you say that you take it, you can just you can mind map, which is kind of like, if when
Mhm.
you have that, okay, what is my new book going to be about? And you just kind of go blah on the page. Like I do
Yes.
that. I like a pen and paper. Like I have all kinds of little scribbles. You're saying that you just put it in this app, and
Mhm.
as you start to actually organize those pieces, you could just grab it and move it into Scrivener, like
Yep.
just
Just like
drag
that.
into
Drag and
two
drop right
different
into
apps, and
Scrivener.
it just crosses apps.
Yep, just crosses
That's
apps. It's so great.
that's very
It's
cool.
exceptional because it really, for those of us who really are kind of like that, I think it really works well for pantsers, where we're really just kind of like, I'm just a hot mess and I'm just dropping everything down here. Things are coming out as they're coming out, and then I'm slowly building, organizing. It's perfect for that kind of thing. Now, if you're an organized person too, you can neatly stack and organize things, and it's very flexible. Once again, it's kind of that same philosophy where we kind of allow you to do what you want to do, but we don't overcomplicate it. And very, very simple, very, very straightforward. Just set it up, use it, and when you're done, ready to move into Scrivener, just drag and drop it over, and you're ready to
Yeah.
go.
That's really interesting. I think because I think all plotters and pantsers might start off with that big brainstorm. Like that's that
Yep.
first, okay, what do I want it to do? What do I want it to go? What's it going to be? Like, what are tropes
Mhm.
in romance? It'd be, what are the tropes I'm going to be using? So that sort of information that's really very cool. So I'll have to look at that.
Yeah. Yes. No, I am purchasing it right now.
Perfect.
So, because it's like, and as a plotter, like, no, that I don't know why I haven't been using that sooner. Especially when you said like you just drag and it's literally drag and drop into Scrivener and it's there. It's like, oh my gosh, what have I been?
Yep.
Because when I'm
It's
in
like a
when I'm in
no-brainer.
when I'm in an
Yep.
outlining mode and I'm planning, I've talked about this a little bit on the podcast. I dedicate kind of an entire writing season to plotting and planning, and it's this tool would have made a few things easier.
Sure. Yeah.
Like it complements Scrivener so well,
Mhm.
and it would have been, not that Scrivener did fine, by the way, for all of that,
Yeah.
but that's a dedicated season of like pretty much, that's going to be kind of the thing for like every year of my writing is like, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to plot like 5 different books and get those all plotted out and planned, and make those decisions ahead of time. But yeah, and I think I played around with it at one point in time. I think because Damon Courtney, the founder of BookFunnel, he and I were, for a period of time, we were co-authors, and then he like made this company called BookFunnel or whatever he did. Right, he got busy.
Yeah.
But we were co-authors for a while, and I think I'm pretty sure he used Scapple. We both used Scrivener, and he was like, I'm going to try to imitate his voice. Here's Scapple. It does this thing, right? And I was like, okay, cool. But I was young and dumb at the time, and I didn't see the wisdom in it. And now I look at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need it. So I think I'm familiar with a little bit of it. It's probably been a while, but I don't know if it's a compliment that like Scrivener is so good that people are like, that you had to be like, there's Scapple too. Like there's this other thing here, this other tool that's
Yeah.
also great as well, and they complement each other so well. So I'll stop
Oh
gushing
yeah.
here, but yeah, you've got another customer.
Perfect. Love to hear it.
Yeah, but I think I love the way that you have like there's just so many different tools at your disposal. It's so
Mhm.
flexible. It's intuitive, to be quite honest with you. The whole team, what the team has done with Scrivener, I think you guys and Scapple, you guys have done a great job. Anything else you want to mention here? Anything that we haven't touched on that we should touch on? Like it would be a crime if we didn't mention before we wrapped up for today.
That's a great question. I can think of at least two more things. I'm gonna give you two more
Yeah,
things,
yeah.
and they're kind of very different and unrelated, but I'm gonna go with it anyway. The first one, kind of echoing our last conversation, or what we were just talking about, actually, what other apps do we offer? I am really excited to announce that we're currently in the beta phase of another app called Written, and you can kind of think of it as a, I don't want to say dumbed down, but a streamlined, simpler version of Scrivener without iCloud sync. And I know a lot of people have been
Hmm.
like crying and begging, please, iCloud, iCloud. And so we've done it. It's coming. It's not Scrivener per se, but it builds on those core fundamentals. So those of you who are looking for maybe a simpler experience, I think for Jack and Kelly, for us, to be frank, I like using it. I enjoy using it, but I still probably think I will stick mostly with Scrivener personally. But for those of you who are new coming in, you might want to give this app a try when it comes out because it is a little bit simpler. It is a little bit more streamlined. It has a lot of the core features of Scrivener. And the nice thing is it's going to sync with iCloud. So those of you who have really been like, oh, I
Yeah,
really want the iCloud sync, this is what it's coming. It's coming this way. So stay tuned for that.
awesome.
Oh,
Awesome.
very
Well,
cool.
that's
Yeah. So
sounds
Yeah.
interesting.
yeah,
And
yeah, it's
how
going to
does
be
one
pretty
get
cool.
invited to this beta?
Go to our user forums.
Okay,
I don't know if they're still open, but you should go to the user forum, look for the beta. It's going to
sure.
be there. They are still beta testing. I have it on my phone right now on my iPad. I don't think I have it on my MacBook here too. So it's pretty easy, and it just download the beta, and it'll tell you, hey, it expires at this date, and then.
Gotcha.
But it's a
Gotcha.
really nice little app. It's cute. It's cool. It works really well. And
Cool.
last but not least, for all of those you planners out there, we kind of touched on this a little bit with, I think, with the writing history, but project targets. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about
Mm,
project targets
hmm.
because the ability to set a draft amount, like a word count you're working towards, and then actually you can choose a session target to say, hey, when I write X amount of words. But even better than that is you could actually Scrivener can automatically calculate the amount of words you have to write every day to meet that
Yeah.
deadline. And if you miss a day, it'll recalculate for that. If you go over a day, it's going to recalculate that for you. Basically, it just tells you, hey, you can write this book in X amount of time. And I just love that. I'm a planner
Yeah.
by nature, and the fact that I can like very clearly see a deadline, an exact date that this is going to be done, that gives me a lot of hope as a piece as a
Yes.
writer, I guess you could say.
I know I've used it in the past and I should be using it
Hmm.
now. And I don't know why I stopped using it. Maybe it was a time in
Hmm.
my writing life when I needed to like, not to have cuz
You need a
sometimes
deadline. Yeah.
yeah, sometimes the deadline is helpful and sometimes the deadline is stressful, but still be like I just remember being able to see like the number of words go up and like the sum total of what you've done.
Hmm.
And I think it's really encouraging like how many words you have left. And yes, no, that's I'm glad that you mentioned that
Hmm.
because I don't think we touched on that earlier. That's right, because you can add like assign to each chapter, excuse me, or each document, because you might do chapters, you might do scenes, however you organize it, because you can set like a word goal for each one of those, if I remember right,
Yes,
and
that's correct.
then
Yep.
that like adds up to the overall goal for that draft, and then it does all the math for you, and it's
What's
brilliant.
really cool with that is the document targets, which is what you're referring to, specific document goals. You can kind of get a general idea. If you map out the entire book, maybe you have all your index cards with all your synopses, and you've mapped it out from beginning to end. Let's just pretend for an
Hmm.
example. And then each of those chapters and scenes, they all have a document target, a word goal attached to it, right? You can then go to your
Right.
outliner. You can look at all those targets, and it'll add it all up for you, and it'll tell you this is how many words you're anticipating your manuscript will be based if we just add up all those targets together, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting to see this. You can see like, oh, I've estimated I'm going to write about 50,000 words. And you could then add that as your project target for the overall project target. And then automatically calculate, hey, how long is that going to take me to write that many words? And it's really interesting to watch as things change, because sometimes you'll write a chapter or a scene, it'll be shorter or longer than you anticipated. And so numbers will change, and you'll just kind of see how you'll improve that muscle of like
Right.
determining how long a manuscript is and how long a scene typically is for you, and how those things will start to become more intuitive to you because you use this tool. Eventually, you might become like you, Jack, where you may not need it as much anymore because you kind of have intuited it in yourself. This is what I write, and this is typically what I do. It's almost like training wheels.
I remember it being motivating, though, and so I probably do need it.
Yeah.
I probably need it now.
Yeah. So motivating.
Especially with as ambitious as I'm trying to be these days. But because
that's great.
The bar goes up and it can change colors if I remember right too. So like as you get closer, like little things like that's what that does it for me. So absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And I'm sure there's plenty of other things that we haven't even touched on, but this is one podcast episode.
Can't give it.
Right? No, exactly. All right. Well, Oliver, it has been a blast. We could go on, I think, for a lot longer, but we have to wrap things up at some time, right? So I want to give you the chance just to shout anything out. I know you did mention the new software that's in beta, but I'm sure you got some other things to mention here for the folks who are listening.
Yep. Okay. So probably the last thing, if you're on the fence with Scrivener, you want to give it a try, you want to experience what we're talking about today, we have a great free trial offer where you get 30 non-consecutive days to try out Scrivener. So I know we've all had those free trials. You open it on day one, you forget about it, you come back 30 days later, and it's like, oh, sorry, your trial is ended. And you're like, oh, why? Nope, not with Scrivener. It only counts the days you actually use it. So I encourage you, download the app, open it up, play around with it. Use every single one of those 30 days. And then I guarantee you, I bet you by day 5, you'll be like, this is great. I just have to get this now. I mean, I don't even need to wait anymore. That's how it happened with me. I got in like 5 days and I was like, okay, this is the app for me. But use all the days, whatever you do, try it out. You're going to love it.
Right. And they can go to, I believe, literatureandlatte.com is the place to go to find out more about Scrivener and your other apps. So we'll make sure to include a link to that in the description as well, in the show notes, so folks can find it there. Right.
Is the Scapple, if you were to buy that app, is that also a kind of a similar trial?
Yeah. Yep. Same trial. Yep. We do this across all our apps. Yep. We get that same free trial.
Very cool.
Excellent. All right. Well, Oliver, thank you for joining us for this episode of the BookFunnel podcast. Good to have you on. Thank you to Kelly, my co-host for today, and for what am I saying? You're always my co-host, except when you're not. But today you are. So thank you for helping out today. Couldn't do it without you. And of course, thank you to you, our listeners and viewers. If you're watching here on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave a comment with your number one takeaway on this video. If you're listening to this in podcast form on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else, please follow us there and leave a review. It really does help. From all of us here at BookFunnel, I want to thank you for listening, and we will see you all in the next one. Thank you for watching. Check out these other videos from BookFunnel, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.